To begin the session with, we have our representatives here. I'm going to announce for them and may I please request them to step up on stage. Beginning with Mr. Hemant Vishnoi, founder Encash. Please put your hands together. Help me welcome him on stage. I'd also request Mr. Naveen Bindal, co-founder Encash, to join him up here on stage. And जोरदार तालियों के बीच हम स्वागत करेंगे यादवेंद्र त्यागी जी का. He's also the founder at Encash. And may I please request Mr. Shashwat Sharma, senior partner and financial service leader, Kearney Consultancy, to step up, and I'm going to put the responsibility on Shashwat's shoulders to take the lead for this report launch.
Here in this room, and great to see a full house. So very glad to launch the Kearney and Cash report on the B2B spend opportunity. B2B is a very interesting space, as all of us know. While a lot of focus and attention has been right now on the B2C space, but we see B2B as already at about close to about $7 trillion opportunity in India already, and going up to about 15 trillion by 2030 as India reaches its overall GDP of 6.5 trillion by 2030. So very excited about the space. As we all know, B2B, a lot is happening. A lot of startups are already there. We also have a lot of government policy, which is also fostering growth in the entire sector. What we tried to focus is on this report to see how could India at the industry level really leapfrog. All of us know about how deep the penetration in India is in the payment systems, and that's something which even countries across the world want to emulate. But one thing where India has been left behind is on the entire efficiency space. So while we've digitized and in some sense made real-time components like payments, but overall from an end-to-end perspective, we still see a lot of inefficiencies in the value chain. So we have what we call the Kearney B2B index, where we benchmark countries from across the world on two parameters, which is around efficiency versus penetration. And while India comes very high on penetration, we still have a long way to go on the side of efficiency. And that's really what we have focused on in our white paper, which we'll be releasing now. We always see FinTechs really taking a lead in broadly in three directions. One is new propositions. So we're seeing a lot of things coming on the lending side, on the spend management side, on the payment side. We also see FinTechs. The second big area is around digitizing elements of the value chain and really building on the India stack and the infrastructure. And we see a lot of work happening there with open digital commerce network coming in, coming in, also the India stack. So that's the second piece. Third piece is around marketplaces and acquiring the customers. So we see a lot of new age platforms coming in and acquiring customers directly. So we see fintechs play a role across all these three models. And what we truly believe is that with the potential to realize $15 trillion by 2030, we see four key levers to make it happen. Number one, the fintechs continuing to innovate and focus on these three elements on the opportunity. Number two, new partnerships developing between banks, financial institutions, and other infrastructure players. Number three, the entire regulatory regime focusing a lot more around incentives and making sure that there is more and more play happening here. And then finally, moving towards a world which is more standardized. And that's something to learn from some of our global experience. How do we reach standards both on data exchange and ways of working? So that's something we want to really highlight, and would great to get your feedback on the report. And with that, I would request Encash Hemant to come.
Not many studies, or probably this is first of its kind study which has happened on digitizing business spends. A lot has been talked about how the retail payments have kind of evolved in India. There are studies which are talking about lending as well, or credit side. This is the first time this study has been done that, how the digital value chain of business spends is kind of, evolving in India. And I think, it's a great study which has been done, comparing various value chain factors within the business spends value chain. And it actually talks about kind of innovations which FinTech and banks can kind of, do together. Great study. Thank you so much. Yeah. Over to Naveen to speak more about the report.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I think while the report itself, when you get access to it and read about it, will tell you a lot more about the opportunity and why the opportunity really there, right? So, but I'll probably try and give some insights in terms of what's really happening, what has not happened as yet, and what can happen further from here, right? I mean, I was on another panel yesterday where I actually spoke about it briefly, but to set the context really here is that as businesses grow in India, the need for the spends automation or the need for the whole B2B commerce or B2B payments has to be solved for, right? It has to be streamlined. There are plenty of opportunities out there. I think we spoke about the availability of NEFT, RTGS as rails, but the solutioning that is required over those rails are still missing. Right, I think the whole efficiency parameter is still very low, while the adoption in India is still better off, right? At least in India, we're not fighting checks and DDs. We're still sort of a little bit ahead as compared to other markets. But still, I think the piece which is lacking here is a solution that can sort of really leverage the rails in a very effective way, right? For example, today, if you look at the mid-market, people are still struggling with how one can sort of raise an invoice, how one can actually account for that invoice. When the payment is sent out to the supplier is still wondering whether the money that has come in has come for which invoice, right? There is no reconciliation of the UTRs that are generated and so on and so forth, right? So there's plenty out there that is broken. With the growth in business in India, I think the need for a very streamlined and all-encompassing ecosystem is required. Just having the ability to move money through NEFT, RTGS rails is not going to be sufficient. What needs to happen really though is that you bring all these pieces and parcels together, whether it's payable, whether it's receivables or any other expenses, as much as you can bring them together and solve for. I think those are the clear needs, and hence the opportunity growing from the current $6 trillion to about $15 trillion over the next 6-7 years, right? I think that's where the report also talks about the gaps that exist today and how those can be met. That's all about it. Thank you. I'll just ask Tyagi to come in and say a few words.
Can I talk from here or I need to walk there? Okay, guys. So I think you've heard enough about this, but I would like to highlight two major events in our lives which brought in digitization, right? COVID-19 and demonetization. That's when everybody started talking about digitization of payments and things like that. And what people in this room sitting across see digitization is paying by UPI, QR, credit card on Amazon, Flipkarts and the likes of it. But when Flipkart guy sells on Flipkart, there's 100 other transactions that happen behind that. He procures raw material, he pays rentals, he pays his wages to the service providers or whoever is there, his utility bills and everything. Think of it that all those transactions are also transactions. That is also a B2B payment which is happening, right? And when you talk about the payment which is happening on a consumer to business, the backside payment is multiple times of that. So the size is humongous. Don't think about digitization or everything as a consumer to business which we keep talking about. This is B2B payments about, even if you look at NEFT, RTGS volumes on the RBI website, 80% of that is business payments. And all of that is broken, right? There is a huge space out there which needs to be sorted out, which needs to be cleaned up, and each and every leg of cleaning up is where there is a transaction or a monetary transaction which is going to happen. That's what Encash is here for. That's what the report says. And I think when you read the report, you'll get much more to know what is happening and where it is headed in that sense. Thank you, well.
Well, up next, right here, because the gentlemen are here, I'm also going to invite Ms. Nidhi Tiwari up here on stage because we are moving forward towards an unveiling moment. So we're going to unveil the report here. So I request all of you together to kindly participate in this one. All right, let's do this at the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give it up, guys, give it up. You can also have some picture perfect moments up here. Well, thank you for gracing the stage with your kindest presence, and thank you, lovely audience, for being patient. And yes, we will move forward, and that's about it from the team here. That is Team Encash and Kearney Consultancy. एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए, फिर एक बार just yes. Thank you everybody for joining in for this particular session.